We have amongst us our chief guest, Major General Preetpal Singh, GOC-HQ Telangana and Andhra sub area. I request DG sir to please accompany sir to the stage, please sir. Today's symposium is graced by the august presence of our chief guest, Major General Preetpal Singh, GOC-HQ Telangana and Andhra sub area. I, Alok Singh from Indian Railway Account Service, on behalf of the whole Academy, wholeheartedly welcome you to today's symposium, sir. It would be very enriching for us to hear your expert outlook on India as a net security provider in the region, in view of rising China trying to encircle India and hegemonize the Indian Ocean region. This situation is further compounded by a perpetual proxy war by Pakistan, hell-bent on trying to make India bleed by 1,000 wounds. Additionally, India being a peninsular nation, maritime security and piracy issues are always a top priority for any national security strategy. With the advent of the next generation warfare in space and cyber, it would be interesting to learn from sir how Indian Defence Forces are shaping up the Indian national security strategy to neutralize this newly emerging threat and emerge as a responsible power and a net security provider in the Indian Ocean region. We would be welcoming sir by presenting sir with a sapling. Proceeding on to the presentations of the winning essays, we have 3 winning essays. We will be starting with Mr. Rahul Meena, who will be presenting his essay. He has won the first prize in the essay topic National Security Strategy. India is a net security provider in the region.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. Good evening, DG sir. Our topic of the essay is devising a national security strategy. India as net security provider in the region, in the Indian Ocean region. First, I would like to tell about the unique and the great democratic experiment which has happened in India. And because India started its tryst with destiny with the renewed commitment to the democratic values, with the intelligent design of the democratic polity, and with the values like secularism, federalism, and the internationalism, which reflected in the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, the whole world is a family. India started its journey with the limited resources, but it was a very greatly successful experiment and achieved immensely. And India, to achieve this tryst with destiny, India made some choices, and it were very hard choices to make in the given environment. India chose non-alignment as a strategy to navigate the bipolar blocks, and India truly emerged as a third bloc to showcase the path of peace. And for this, to substantiate this, our first Prime Minister told that ours is the great design of promoting peace and progress all over the world. And India made dramatic transformation in all spheres of life, social, economic and political. And now we as a society in transition between modernity and the tradition, and now nation on the move. To secure these, our commitments we made during our freedom struggle, the national security become the paramount. And for this, we have to define actually what is the national security. Broadly, it can be defined a ability of a nation to secure its core values. For India, it is democratic setup, and the fundamental concept of human dignity and equality of the human being, and the social fabric, social cohesion. And on the vital national interest, which are very general, like sovereignty, territorial integrity, and to find a rightful place in the community of the nation, to be a responsible international actor, and to achieve the holistic national security in a sustainable manner, we have to achieve the comprehensive national power. Actually, it is a Chinese concept, but now it is widely adopted in all over the security doctrines, and it mainly defined by encompassing all the capitals like human capital, natural capital, knowledge capital, economic capital, political capital, military resources, technological and capabilities. And the main aim is the human development. And without peace, we cannot assume about the human development. That's why the freedom of our father of the nation said that the true reflection of the national freedom will if we get the enough power to do things for the nation, what we have made the commitment during the founding of the nation. And for that, we require power in all spheres to create and safeguard an environment of the growth and development for individual and the society in the state we have constituted as India state. However, India has been facing many security challenges in achieving these goals. On the internal sphere, India has been witnessing many fault lines based on because of there is a gap between the rising aspirations as well as our capacity to deliver and meeting these aspirations. So these causing the economic disparity, social inequalities, and causing many problems. And then internal security issues like insurgency, left-wing extremism, drug trafficking, organized crime, and now the major challenge is becoming our overpopulation. Whether we can transform our overpopulation into a demographic dividend or will it be a demographic curse. On the regional front, because Pakistan being a rogue state, it doing many proxy wars as well as the so-called peaceful rise of China is not peaceful for India. It creating great anxiety among the Indian minds, Indian growth policy makers, and as well as it creating an environment insecure for the India. And the incidences of piracy and to secure the sea lanes of the communication, the importance of the maritime security have gained the currency right now. At the world level, as the great Indo-American journalist Fareed Zakaria said that with the decline of the US, of the West, especially US, and the rise of the rest, the new security environment is emerging, and that creating a new dynamics in the international forum. And to come to the Indian Ocean region, now we are witnessing a very fluid geopolitical flux, and that is manifested with the formation of Quad, need of the Quad, even Quad Plus, and the emergence of Indo-Pacific region as a geopolitical hotspot. As said by the Alfred T. Mahan, that whoever controls the Indian Ocean region will decide the destiny of the world. For this, because Chinese are very smart and they play with the charm offensives. So they started with their strategy of string of pearls to encircle India so that there should not be a challenge for them. And now we are witnessing that US and China under the Thucydides trap, that is traditional Thucydides trap. Because US is the dominant power and China is the revisionist power. And Russia is emerging with the renewed national spirit under the Putin. And we also see that in the South Asia, the situation is very fragile. We are very unique with a democratic setup, while our neighborhood is surrounded by the not so successful democratic experiments. We are witnessing cross-border terrorism, proxy wars from Pakistan, drug trafficking from Myanmar, from Nepal, even from the maritime side. And the nuclear weapon has added a new dimension to the security. And now the security frontiers have been expanding with emergence of the new challenges like cyber security, in COVID, during COVID pandemic, supply chain resilience issues with respect to the APIs, health security, outer space with the development of the new technologies, water security, which is with damming of the Brahmaputra. The water will, there is a projections that the next world war will be based on the water. And the nexus of the environment, food and energy is important for sustaining our population. Now for evolving or devising a new security strategy, we have recently made some new commitments or decisions. Like we have adopted the non-alignment 2.0, which is a reluctant adoption of the pragmatism and the real politics. As our currently the foreign minister said, Jaishankar said in his book, The India Way, that now we have to focus on the issue-based engagement rather than the non-alignment. And now we have made enough defense capabilities with respect to the policy as well as from the hard power. And now with the Dovell Doctrine, we have introduced the offensive defense as our policy with respect to the dealing with the rogue states. And now we are focusing upon our enlightened self-interest by the mutual benefits. From Gujral Doctrine, we initiated from Gujral Doctrine. Now we are adopting the Manmohan Doctrine, which is based on the trade and economic integration. And now truly emerging as the next security provider in the Indian Ocean region, because India helped in the Maldives, in the water crisis, and even in the political stability, and in Sri Lanka during the IPKF. So in summation, I will say that our grand national strategy will be based on the mutually reinforcing interplay between defense, diplomacy and development. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul, for such a well-researched and a detailed PPT. A lot of effort would have gone into writing that essay. That was brilliant. It considered the holistic definition of national security, which consisted of both military elements and non-military elements. Now, also I would like to tell that Mr. Rahul from Indian Forest Service has scored 84 marks in the essay. Now I will be calling Navendu Shekhar, who stands second in the competition with 83 marks. He is from Indian Foreign Service.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Chief Guest, sir. Good evening, DG, sir. Good evening, CD, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity. I am Navendu Shekhar, Indian Foreign Service, currently serving as Second Secretary, Embassy of India, Tehran. So, the topic of our essay was Thirst and Nuances of Indian National Security Strategy and India's role as a net security provider in the region. So, I'd like to start with the quote, "The world has never been more threatened or more divided and is facing the greatest cascade of crisis." This quote was given by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres in the 76th session of UNGA, which he, in 2021, which he gave during the COVID crisis. And I think this encompasses the situation that we are currently seeing all around us. So the structure of my essay was basically divided into 5 parts. First was the fundamentals of India's national security. What makes the dimensions of India's national security, the internal and external security challenges that India faces. India as a net security provider, not only as a display of power, but also as a means of creating alliances and strategic relationships in the region. India's comprehensive national power, comprehensive national power as told by Rahul, a Chinese definition that basically means the measure of your ability to utilize and mobilize your strategic resources to further your national goals. So it's basically a simplified definition of comprehensive national power. And the last being my thirst on why we need a concise and clear national security policy strategy document, which I think India, even after 25 years of independence, we haven't pinned down a proper document. So for the fundamentals of Indian national security, I'd like to say that the major crux of our security strategy would protection of our territorial integrity, not only from external aggression, war, but also economic aggression, military aggression and cyber threats, the maritime challenges that Rahul already told us. Then we also should strive for strategic autonomy being being a sovereign independent nation in our decision making. As we have already seen this term being used by Honorable PM, Honorable External Affairs Minister and Defense Minister time and again, focusing on the issue-based alignment, the multipolar alignment, India's strategy to further its own goals without being dependent on foreign powers. And the third pillar being resolving of internal security threats, the internal challenges that I'll also tell in detail later. The contribution to securing regional, neighborhood and global arena from adverse actors, that is basically what would make India a net security provider in the region. And then the last pillar being the building of our capabilities to adapt to ever-changing nature of threats in future. That would mean, as he said, the grey zone warfare capabilities and the multipolar threat warfare, all those new terms, new and emerging warfare technologies. So we'll focusing on the internal and external security challenges. The internal threats being terrorism and insurgency, terrorism mostly being from the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, insurgency in the northeast, left-wing extremism and nationalism in central India and some parts of eastern and southern India, illicit drugs and arms trade, organized crime syndicates, parallel black economy, mostly meaning that money laundering, funds of which are actually utilized for all these illicit activities, the growing radicalization among the gullible youth, and the rising income inequalities which we are seeing is actually leading to more crimes in the society. So these are some of the internal threats that India has to deal with. For external threats, we see the infiltration bids across LOC as the rogue state, Rahul mentioned already, the aggressive Chinese on LAC, the incidents of Galwan and Doklam that we have seen, the cross-border cyber security threats, somebody always trying to pull your firewalls down, the political instability in our neighborhood, especially now we have seen from Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Maldives, every one of our neighbors going through some kind of political churn, which can ultimately affect security of India as well. Russia's invasion of Ukraine, we see it has already made an economic impact on most countries around the world. Threats of sea lanes of communication and all trade routes in Iowa are something which is a maritime challenge and a focus of Indian Navy for a long time, which I think they also pinned down in the Indian Maritime Security Strategy document they came out in 2015 with. The Middle East and the region of new great game where the wars in Yemen and Syria, they are yet not ceased. Lebanon crisis, everything that ultimately has the impact on security of India as well. So my next focus is how has India demonstrated to be a net security provider in the region. So basically defining a net security provider, I'll again go back to the Indian Maritime Security Strategy document. What it defines is that there are three sets of challenges. It's prevailing threats and inherent risks and rising challenges. Some state which can balance all of them by monitoring and countering them, that would be a net security provider, which this document says India has the capability to do. So why should we think that India can be a net security provider in the region? So these are mostly out of area contingency operations like UNPK operations that we have already conducted, IPKF Operation Pawan in Sri Lanka, Operation Cactus in Maldives in 1988, Operation Rahat and Operation Ganga as part of non-combatant evacuation operations, development partnership programs and regional connectivity, BBI and Maya Mandale, Mysore, that line that we have connectivity projects that we have already built to connect Northeast, COVID-19 assistance and vaccine distribution that we did during COVID wave, human humanitarian and disaster relief interventions in floods and cyclone across countries in our neighborhood, prevention of Chinese debtor diplomacy in our neighborhood, that which we are trying to do somehow with Sri Lanka to prevent it from collapsing completely. So these are some of the factors by which India has already shown its mettle of being a net security provider. So talking about the comprehensive national power, this is what would give a thrust to India's push as a net national security provider in the region. Some components of it being India's strong and continuous economic growth, its time and again proven military strength, its soft power prowess, its science and technology prowess, its natural resource capability and its geography being in the center of Indian Ocean, its foreign policy and diplomacy that has already achieved a lot of success, governance and political stability as we are seeing all around us, countries collapsing in a political quagmire, but India remaining a sturdy democracy, human capital, the demographic dividend that we must utilize. So encompassing all these, we can make a claim that India's CNP allows itself to present it as a responsible global power, something that it can use to present itself as a net security provider in the region. Coming to the last part about why we need a concise and clear national policy strategy. As we constantly hear the word Quad, all the three other Quad partners, Japan, Australia, US, have a security policy strategy document written down. From US has a long back, and Japan and Australia have already done it in 2013 with timely updations. So India probably is the only major democratic country which faces so many threats and yet has not defined a comprehensive document for it. So it's basically what I think was an ideological inertia in displaying military might. We follow the principles of punch, shield and non-alignment, but I think there is some hesitancy on our part to display that military might, considering it might be a threat more than a display of support to others. It's like we need a strategy document that would clearly define reduced role on our procurement of key defense objects, articles and artilleries, which we are already trying to do. All our defense policies that are currently coming are focusing on indigenization. Then absence of a policy document often leads to political impasse and unstable decisions. Change of governments might mean change of policies immediately. So that is a threat that can be avoided if we have a clearly stated policy document. The lack of unified and cohesive political, diplomatic, military dealings with foreign actors used to be a huge problem. Somehow I think with the negotiations that are going on with Chinese after Galwan, that has bridged this gap a lot. There is a cohesion now. So I think to carry on, build on that spirit forward, it must be codified and defined. Then there are always debates about boots on ground, whether military intervention is necessary or not. Sometimes we feel it is necessary, but we are hesitant to put boots on ground because there are domestic debates whether of bread versus bullet, or whether India's soft power diplomacy should be upended by its military and hard power diplomacy. So all these threats, I think it should be a clearly defined, instead of having debates as and when challenges arise, instead of finding that solution, we should have a policy document that states how our response is going to be. And developing rapid response capabilities is a must for being a net security provider. I think we have already shown our mettle as being a rapid response actor in our neighborhood. So I think it's only time that we go global with this and we present our foot and we present to the world that India can be a net security provider, not only for the region but also for the world. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Navendu. It was very well structured and logically dealt with. Seemed like a standard foreign policy paper. So Navendu Shekhar has received 83 marks and well deserved, so as we can see. The last presenter of the day is A. MCRHRD from Indian Postal Service, and he has scored 81 marks in the essay.
National security strategy and what should be its thrusts and nuances. First of all, what is a national security strategy? I want to emphasize here that since 1947, our independence, India doesn't have one national security strategy policy, at least on the public domain. So a national security strategy and what all it should contain. It should, the national security strategy should list the national security concerns, the current geopolitical flux in the region and the beyond, the aspirations, the opportunities and the challenges including, and how the administration wants to deal with it. So my essay broadly addresses first what are the national security concerns we have. So broadly, they are territorial issues, threat from the state and the non-state actors, and the internal security issues and how they are linked with the external security. So I've come up with a security vulnerability map. So detailing all these national security issues which the country is facing. First of all, let me come to the Northwest, where it has been our historical vulnerability. This region was under the Indian kings, under the Chandragupta Maurya period. Thereafter, we have seen continuously the incursions from Indo-Greeks, Shakas, Kushans, and many other Turks and Mughals. In the words of Mark Twain, history repeats twice, but here history has repeated multiple times. And even then, still today, India's Northwest has been our historical vulnerability. If you see the literature of partition, we have delved more on the security, cultural aspects, social aspects, but not much literature is available on the security perspective. What if we divided the Indian subcontinent into two nations and the security implications of it? And still today, the threat from the Northwest is embodied in the form of a theocratic, fundamentalist, and perennial antagonistic nation embodied in the form of Pakistan. From the north, we have issues within our internal security like terrorism, and at the same time, from the sea, we have seen an assertive China. We have territorial issues with Nepal in the form of Kala Pani issue, and the rising fundamentalist issues in Bangladesh, and foreign territories like Myanmar has been used by insurgent forces against India. Maritime piracy, weapon and drug trade in the Indian Ocean region. The assertive China, which I've already mentioned, the string of pearls theory, salami slicing, or maritime or weaponization of Silk Route. With this multiple security vulnerabilities, at the same time we have to dwell upon what is the current geopolitical situation in the region and beyond. So what we are seeing is a geopolitical flux which I've mentioned. The world is moving from a unipolar world to a multipolar one. The unipolar world, which emerged with the disintegration of Soviet Union, have been rapidly disintegrating, where we are seeing emergence of the multiple powers. And in this multipolar world, these are not equal powers, but there are differences within the power elements, economical and military differences between the countries. And within this new scenario, we have seen an assertive China with new policies and strategies to create a world which is more China-centric. And also with all this, we have also some opportunities such as emergence of Asian century. The geopolitical center of gravity is shifting towards from Atlantic to the Indian Ocean and Indian Pacific regions. And in this scenario, what are the Indian aspirations? In the words of political scientist Brahmachalani, India wants a unipolar South Asia, a bipolar Asia, and a multipolar world. This is in direct conflict with what China wants. China wants a bipolar South Asia, a unipolar Asia, and a multipolar world. And as we all know, the US wants a multipolar world. There is a basic conflict of interest between the rising nations of today. At the same time, India wants to be a net security provider in the region. What do you mean by net security provider? Is a nation which can tackle its own security needs and at the same time addresses the security needs of other countries. Also, India aspires to enhance its comprehensive national power. As already mentioned by my friends, the comprehensive national power determines our ability to use our resources to further our national objectives. And India also wants to be a seat at the global high tables, for example, UNSC. With these aspirations, I want to dwell upon the opportunities which the country has. India is emerging as a swing state. The swing state, by swing state I mean, which can tilt the global power balance. This was a situation which China was enjoying in the 16th and 70s, when it used both US and Russia to further its national goals. Recently, after the Ukraine crisis, we have seen a beeline of leaders, prominent political executives across the country coming to India to tilt the balance in their favors. India is also a major global economy. It's fifth in terms of purchasing power capacity, and soon going to be in the third position. And at the same time, one of the opportunities we have, and much neglected upon, is a demographic dividend. 65% of our population is below 35. After the opportunities, I want to dwell upon the challenges for us. The first challenge is the national security strategy. We don't have one coherent national security strategy so far. It has its own, some experts can say that uncertainty has got its own power, but at the same time, not having a national security strategy risks of national security intermining with the politics of the day, and the politics of the day pushing the national security in their own favors. And the second challenge is we are getting boxed up in South Asia. So most of us should, because of our territorial issues with our neighbors. So we are not able to think beyond the region. And one of the major challenges is geography also. Like all of our neighbors have a border with us, but not a border among themselves. So because of which most of the territorial issues, they are concerned with India rather than with the other countries. So that also, for example, countries like Nepal, Sri Lanka tries to balance us with China. The scenario of a two-front war and asymmetric power with respect to in economic terms, at the same time in militaristic terms vis-a-vis China. Along with this, there are few new age challenges which are emerging in the region. We are seeing an increasing militarization of Indian Ocean region. At the same time, emergence of a fourth generation warfare in the form of cyber security, where the enemy is not within the society. So it's very difficult to identify an enemy in the civil society. Biological and chemical warfare, the weaponization of supply chains, which I have seen, especially after the COVID scenario, where China has been increasingly using it in case of rare earth metals, APIs, semiconductors, etc. The threat of nuclear warfare and tactical nuclear weapons. The tactical nuclear weapons has increasingly been seen during the Ukraine crisis also. We have seen many countries and nations were talking about using of nuclear weapons. India has a nuclear strategy which is called No First Use Policy, which was designed in 1999 in the times of nuclear apartheid, which was subjected to, and it was basically to address the concerns of the nations that we won't be using it for military purposes. But now the times have changed. It's been 20 years, and given the changing scenario, we should have a dynamic nuclear security doctrine which will address the emerging challenges. And what are the immediate imperatives? Indigenization of defense technology and modernization of defense forces. Even now, like we had our first defense industry in 1802, but still today 60% of our defense needs are met through imports. Our focus should be Indian Ocean region, because increasingly the potential of the region, at the same time, as I've mentioned, because of the increasing militarization of the region. The TIE services, integrated commands, as already steps have been taken in this front, and more such synchronization is needed. But there is a need of a digital security command, especially in the times of Stuxnet, Prism, and such ransomware attacks. Along with the immediate imperatives, we need to enhance our comprehensive national power. It's a comprehensive national power is our ability to achieve our national objectives. It's not limited just to military, but also to the economy, polity, and other aspects. Here, Jan Bhagidari is the key. So national security, the domain of national security is just not limited to military, bureaucracy, or political executives, but citizens have the role to play. So three important aspects of comprehensive national power are economy, a democracy, and a demography. So with all this, so I want to say that we have a nation, suppose we get a national security strategy, and what is this national security strategy for? So I want to sum up with the words of National Security Advisor Shri Ajit Doval. this national security strategy should help us to fight if the need be, fight where we feel the threat is coming, not for the selfish reasons. We'll fight war on our own land and others' land too, for the good of others. And for this, the national security strategy should be practical, should be adequately supported politically and economically. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Venkateshwar, for such an objective analysis of national security. To see you present security vulnerability map was intriguing. I would now request GOC sir and DG sir to please grace the stage and present the medals to essay winners. Brilliant objective analysis. A. Venkateshwar Reddy. I would now like to call Mr. Navendu Shekhar, Indian Foreign Service, IT 3 marks. Wrote his essay like a foreign policy paper. And the first prize goes to Mr. Rahul Meena, Indian Forest Service, 84 marks. Such a holistic definition of national security. Thank you, Rahul. I would now like to request our beloved DG sir to please address the meeting. Sir.
The chief guest of today's function, Major General Pratpal Singh Ji, Mrs. Pratpal Singh Ji, Course Director Divya Parbar, faculty here, and the OTs. The Army Symposium has always been a very prestigious event in the foundation course. Besides giving the essay topic, the Army also participates, and we will have the benefit of hearing from them on this topic today. Security, as you all know, is a topic which is not just defense or police related, as very rightly told by our colleagues. It is all-encompassing. Every one of us is associated with the defense of our country. Actually, I believe that democracy is our strength. We are a functioning democracy since 1947 in an area where there are not many democracies. Nepal became democratic. Sri Lanka has been going between an executive presidency and a parliamentary system. Bangladesh had 2 martial laws. And let's not talk about Pakistan. I'm still not clear whether it is a hybrid state or it's a democratic state. And a little bit distant neighbor called Afghanistan frightens. Sometimes you wonder whether that is the model where the world is going to go. So in an area, in an environment, India is a democracy, a functioning democracy. Transitions have happened peacefully. That is why all our allies, friends, are democracies, whether it is Australia, Japan in Quad, whether it is the US, UK, Europe, Western Europe, they are interested that this democracy should work, should thrive. Democracy is also in our blood. We are a very argumentative race. Put two Indians together, I'm sure they can argue for a long time. They have a lot of topics also to argue about. So debate is the heart of democracy. A lot of changes have happened through democracy. We have seen how different sections of a society have been empowered. And today, they are contributing immensely to our country's growth and defense. In my view, humble view, we need to deepen our democracy. We need to make it even better. We need to improve our record on human rights too. We need to be an example, even to countries like USA and Japan, where democracy, and UK, where democracy was born. What is democracy? How it is practiced? We can do it. We have the civilizational resources for it. My colleagues, the speakers today, they spoke beautifully, very well researched. I don't know, it will not be fair, but I must quote some of them. Defense, diplomacy and development. I think 3 Ds were quoted by Rahul. So I think that is the defense has to be defense. In my humble view, we should not show our military might because democracies don't show their might. The soft power works, in my view. You cannot get cooperation from our friends and colleagues by showing that I am big. We have to show that we are wise. And we have been wise. And we have produced immensely wise people in this country. Great scholars, great warriors. So we need to work on those resources, find out those talent which is there in our country, in my view. China is not a democracy. That is its weakness. We can defeat China by being better in democracy. They had crushed in the Tiananmen Square. So a lot of ferment, there are a lot of things in China which you don't know about. So this is my humble 2 bits opinion I am adding to what Navendu, Rahul and MCRHRD have said. We always are lucky that the Army Symposium always is attended by the senior most officer at Hyderabad, and today we have a very distinguished officer who has been involved in counter-terrorism, counter-insurgency, and who's heading a very important unit here. We will look forward to his considered views on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for making us understand the relationship between a functional democracy and long-lasting peace and its effect on national security. I would now like to request GOC, sir, to kindly address the meeting, sir.
Respected Director General, Shri Harpreet, distinguished faculty, officers, ladies, gentlemen. Firstly, it's a proud privilege to be here, and it's a very auspicious day today. Today is Tegh Bahadur's Jayanti, 400th Jayanti, who fought for the freedom of religion, bravery, dignity, and as many adjectives as you can use. And that's where the bedrock foundation of our country goes many millions of years and centuries. And it is also very auspicious because today is the Civil Services Day, and rightly so, Sardar Patel, when he says that the steel frame of India is what the civil services are for the country. So our compliments to all civil servants who are sitting here. Now my admission, firstly compliments to the three speakers and admission, because I firstly read all three essays and must congratulate them for doing extensive research, trying to put things together, and of course making my job easier, because whatever I had to say, that more than you put it summed up together very well. But I'll be more trying to speak from a practitioner point of view, so that you can get an idea as to what goes in our mind when we speak of national security. Also, more than the PowerPoint, I think it is the question answers form which should be more stimulating, because that is what should come out better, because you've already given the broad contours of what national security strategy is and what are the challenges and other things. So there's no point me repeating those things. Of course, I'll flash through it and I'll quickly go it and give only the operative words which I feel are essential. But I look forward to the question answer form, because that will be something which you can clarify your doubts, ideas or anything. And it was a good learning to have. Firstly, I was happy to see that your understanding of national security strategy was complete and it was not a single dimensional. Okay. I have purposely underlined a few words. Read them, they are self-explanatory, they are very important in 21st century. Fear has no place, strength only respects strength. I shall cover it in three parts. All three have been covered earlier, so I'll be very quick on as to what has been done. Very briefly, because as I said that India is a civilization. It's not a country which has just got formed out of anything. It's a country with millions of years that has lived it. And we need to understand as Indians, we spoke of democracy, we spoke of diversity, we spoke of plurality, but are these just words or do they have a lot of meaning behind it when we talk of our civilization, and where do they fit into the nation state? So, of course, state came in somewhere in 1648 with the Treaty of Westphalia, and somebody said, this should be how a state should be defined. That means the polity, the governance, the boundaries. But who gave the nation? I think the nation is more important, which gives you the culture, which gives you the real soft part, the values of a nation. And when you put together, then it becomes a nation state. So by just doing the bean counts, that I've got so many rupees in my pocket or I've got so many weapons, so does that count, or is the soft part or your nation part of the country is equally important? So just keep it in mind and we will get back to it. We've all spoken, I think very well brought out, whether it is our values, whether it is our non-alignment initial when we started Panchsheel, whether it is non-alignment 2.0. So all this is covered here, independent foreign policy, and these are the pillars of our ethos as a nation, which we will trying to do it. And the core values, you spoke of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, but whether it is Atithi Deva Bhava, and I think these are very important words or important phrases or important part of our living. I was very fortunate to have worked in UN headquarters in New York for 3 years, where we were dealing with 192 nations. And one was dealing with deployment of 140 plus militaries of the world, having traveled to those countries very briefly. I think our strength remained in these very core values. So please respect them. They're very important. Let's not get carried away by these WhatsApp, these expediency of the news channel, and sometimes we start feeling fragile in our own nation. This is our strength. And we should only work as a citizen, as a servant, to only further cement that strength of ours which is there. As far as vision is concerned, now this is something which we were looking at 2050. I have not put the year here, but this was some months back we were trying to figure out what should be India of 2050. Because by that time, whether we like it or not, we will be the largest demography, whether it will be a dividend or a curse, let's see. but will be the second largest economy if it goes the way it is, the current, this thing, and the third most powerful military. So this is what 2050, you will have it on the table most probably. If that be the case, then where should India be in terms of its aim? Let's try to define a vision out of it. I think it's very clear that we should be prosperous, secure, energy abundant, environment. And it can go on. I mean, these are all important words of those dimensions of developed nations which are there. And to do that, now this is, I think, firstly, all three speakers spoke about the absence of a national security strategy. But it's not only that. I think it is also the absence of any national vision document as such, which should have been put across, because from the vision, probably other things will flow. Of course, Niti Aayog is trying to put things together. There are documents within the respective ministries. Some of you would, I'm sure, would have seen it. I think probably the Environment Ministry has done a better job than some of the other ministries. So firstly, I think before even national security strategy, we need a clear vision document of what does India wants to be in year of 2050, and that would, of course, these are all pillars which somewhere we're trying to put it, whether through Durdrishti, Divyadrishti, Swachhta, and of course our Honorable Prime Minister is a great proponent of all these words, and I'm sure he carries a lot on his head with respect to, and also the onerous responsibility of making sure that we come out with that. What are we looking at? That we want to be instead of a swinging power, I will rather use a little better nuanced word of a balancing power and a front-ranking power when it comes to our region, and we will see what that region is. Okay, so coming to the second part now, having broadly set the stage as to what is the security environment, understand that when we look at India of 2050, this is what our region should be. So it can't be restricted to where we've all grown up hearing from Horn of Africa to Malacca Strait. Please zoom out a little bit more, because if we have to really carry all what we've said of 2050, then this is what our effort should be. We are seeing the impact of what's happening in Russia, Ukraine. It is coming not only to our drawing rooms and our TV sets, it's coming to our pocket. So it's a very interconnected world we live in today. So please understand, if one activity taking place, it may be a very tactical activity, but it will have a bearing today at both strategic level, national level, impacting all of us. Already spoken of, you spoke of the unprecedented rise of China, and ladies and gentlemen, this is first time in the history of millions of years of history of Indian civilization that we will have a superpower next door. So understand the nuances. It's not bad. Let's not take it negative. There are very positives out of it also. So, but it is there, and therefore, as policy makers, we have to learn to live with it in terms of. Technology today and multi-domain. You spoke of cyber. You spoke of information. All these domains have come in. It is no more today, and as a uniformed person saying that I deal with land, air, and sea. Gone are those times. Probably I will never fight on land, but I'm fighting on cyber. I'm fighting information warfare. I'm fighting a biological warfare. Still, we're not clear where this COVID came in. Was it generated? Was it natural? All those issues, and in future these very things. We'll keep fighting legal warfare when these villages are coming on the Chinese border. Why they are coming up? What is the reason behind it? So our domains are only going multiplied, and technology is helping it. 5 C's, that means right from competition to cooperation to collaboration to contestation to conflict. So we got to learn live with these 5 C's, and probably could add more C's into it. So that is the kind of era in which we will be expected to work. And especially when we talk of China, I think they will all move in hand in glove. Sorry. We spoke of inclusivity, somebody said of two-front war, very much live. Shift from land-centric I spoke of, and this is where it is emerging. We all know that. I mean, this is the future, Indian Ocean region, new center of gravity you spoke of. I figured out that how China for many years now is winning without fighting, and the US is fighting without winning. And let me tell you that US has a clearly defined military security or a national security strategy. So will one document find out all the answers to our problems. That's the question mark, keep in mind. I can also share it with you. Some of you in your later part of your service will get a chance to do a National Defence College course which is held in New Delhi. It is a one-year course which is it's all encompassing of the bureaucrats and the military officers. Every year when we do that course, at the end of the day, the end product is a draft national security strategy. So therefore, and it started many years back. I did 3 years back that course and we came out with a draft. So the country has about 20-30 drafts with it. So it's not that it is absence of that kind of a strategy. But of course, as we said that as a student, like today your interest levels are probably as good or as bad as ours was in the National Defence College course. So the student we put, but there are people sitting in South Block, North Block who are trying to put it together. Will it come? Will it not come? In what form it will come? Whether it will be all full, complete domain. I mean, the Pakis tried doing it. Imran Khan came with it, and you know what is the end product of that? It came out to be. So while it's an essential document, as practitioners we need it, but will it find panacea for all problems? That is the issue. We keep it in mind because, as I said, it's a very dynamic world, a world which changes very fast. So all your answers may not be in that one document. So we spoke of, I put a circle on Indo-Asian region, you guys also spoke about it, very important, that's where the future is. The current national hierarchy, right from the political to the military, everyone understands it well. That's where the future is, and the reasons are very clear, whether it is sea trade, economy, hydrocarbons, GDP, and the activities which are taking place there, especially with rise of China, with BRI coming in, and the big strategic game which is taking place. So that's the importance of the Indian Ocean region, and we are blessed to be a peninsular state with the kind of coastline and kind of sea which is there. So it's a blessing to us only if we first understand the importance and thereafter put our money where the mouth is, because it's not enough just to say that it's very important and other things if we don't develop the capabilities. Well, this August gathering needs no introduction. National security strategy is not in the uniform. It is everyone today, every citizen is a stakeholder. So whether this little mobile device which is you, I think that is the weapon of mass destruction in future, which will have everything. So everyone has to be today aware of it, conscious of it, that knowingly or unknowingly you can become you can be targeted or you could become a facilitator to the enemy. So that I'm sure you all understand it. The famous Clausewitz trinity of the government, people and military, and we will come to the defense diplomacy and that part development later, but this is how they're all equally important. So just leaving it to say, okay, army will handle the national security or the civil servants or the government will handle it, it's not enough. Everyone is today part of it, is very much on that part. So I'll come to the last part now as to what is the security threats and what are the counter strategy as far as our thought process currently. Again, you've all spoken about it. I have just highlighted little bit gray zone conflict. Understand today that, and it's a stated strategy. It's not something now unstated. China has very clearly enunciated it, is written in black and white, and they're following it. And the dimension, or the zone of this is right from information to media, to legal warfare, to the transgressions which have taken place. Galwan occurred, Doklam occurred prior to that. All that is part of the grey zone. That's a well-stated doctrine which they follow it. So it is up to us that we just continue to read about it, or we try to now be a little more proactive, try to play the game which they are playing back in the same way, which we are doing incidentally. Just for information, our hierarchy and our people on the ground are clear. It's move for move. It's man for man. So please don't remain in, of course we all know that China is a great civilization, great country, economically, militarily very strong, but you must go with a lot of confidence from this room that your military today, which is facing them, is equally strong. Never ever should it occur to your mind that if our men who are there, that's our strength. Please always understand, the boots on ground, people who are there are our biggest strength, and they will not let you down. Well, of course, technology will come into play, multi-domain will come into play, their RT, rocket RT will come into play, Air Force, all those are later factors. But the man who's standing there, have trust on him, because he is our, I think, the bedrock, which is doing an extremely good job. We spoke of the VUCA word, so therefore taking out one document will not serve the purpose, because it's changing at such a faster pace. I mean, a couple of months back, people, a whole lot of strategists and everyone thought that the era of Second World War, where large armies going into other countries, big cities being bombarded, who had ever thought of it? We thought that era is gone. Who's going to fight when you can win without fighting? But you've seen today is the some 40 whatever days going on, bombardment taking place of these big cities. All those alliances, these Quad Plus, did anybody come for the rescue? So another big lesson that probably you got to learn to guard your own turf. You have to be first, make yourself own stronger, whether it is Atmanirbharta or whether it is making our country self-reliant, both in terms of security, economics and other factors which are there. And of course, these are internal and external, and these are at the global level, which we've spoken about. Hyper-nationalism, we understand, whether it is Europe, whether it is America, Donald Trump, we all faced him for 4 years, whether it is China. So everyone has its own understanding of how the today world, whether it is the global economy, global politico-military powers, global strategies unfolding. Maritime threats, they are only multiplying. They are not only restricted to conventional or unconventional. The lines are very blurred. This is where our challenge is. Of course, Indian Navy did a good job by coming out with the strategy, but to come out with, because the problem, as I said, every time it's a new normal. Today, if you ask me how you're going to fight the next war, so I can't give you an answer, because there are different templates every time. Last time we had a problem with, we did Balakot. So we did surgical strikes. You'll ask me, what will you do next? Well, that next we'll see how it will have to be done. Whether we'll do Prakram, whether we'll go for Vijay Kargil type operations, whether it will be that whole army will go and sit there and do the operations, it will be a dynamic response strategy. So the mind has to be so today flexible that you should be able to respond based on that kind of a situation. And as putting in front, it's an all issue based, so it's all incident based. So something like that. So very difficult today to put these strategies, because every time the threat which is emerging, and emerging in seas, is different. We spoke of technology. That is one area which today I think our main focus is put right from the top, that we understand whether it is in terms of AI, which is very much live, because gone are the days when humans are sitting and trying to see through binoculars, when machines can do the job, whether it is handling of big data, whether it is robotics. You've seen the drones and the impact of drones which is taking place. So there is no end which it looks like. Every day when you get up, there is a new technology on the table, and it is impacting us in our civil lives, military lives, our war zones, and I mean, by the time, frankly, or you retire, because we'll retire much faster, this will all get outdated, because the kind of technology which will come in, probably this warfare and everything will become redundant on that part. Very briefly, we tried to put in last, not even 2 years, these are all very real cyber attacks which have taken place. And we've impacted it. And come the next, I don't even want to say come the next war, because frankly, partly we are already in some kind of a conflict. Today we don't have to go for a kind of a 65 or 71 war, because this will become part of our lives already, with no geographical boundaries and time constraints. We spoke of the biological warfare. So I've tried to put it very specific, which is kind of a cornerstone of the security strategy, when you put it that how you want to deal with your immediate neighbors, your little far neighbors, and the globe as such. We'll not go to every detail, but some of them are important. Pakistan, we all understand, terrorism will remain a core issue. Peaceful coexistence is the long-term strategy. You can't, as they say, you can't choose your neighbors. It is there. So in the longer term, of course, these are distractions which will keep taking place, but in the strategy, there's a discussion of stable, unstable Pakistan, but our thought is that it's better to have a stable neighbor than an unstable neighbor, and another thing. China, more complex, more difficult to put it across, but we spoke of those 5 C's that we must learn to put it as, to live with that time. Diplomatic military dialogue we spoke, reject unilateral initiatives. Understand, gentlemen, that China respects strength. So we have to say that we will continue to deal with them with only the soft power, that may not be the right answer, which I think all of us understand, and therefore, of course, PDIME, that is the whole nation of an approach, another thing, and similarly for all other nations which are there, we've tried to put it across. Whether this is foolproof, as I said, that things are changing fast, but it is a start point which must be understood by all the policy makers, that in next 20-30 years, if 2050 is our kind of a zone or a period which we've decided, this is what our strategy would look like. Similarly, for the Indian Ocean region, a lot of efforts are already taking place, whether it is Project Mausam, whether it is Saga, that is growth and development, security and growth for all in the BIMSTEC, and necklace of diamonds. Somebody spoke of pearls of string. So, but understand that string of pearls, and now here it is the necklace of diamonds. So something is happening. It's not that the Indian policymakers are sitting quiet and only waiting for that string to come around. So a whole lot of effort is going around to try to find out our own footholds. So that, and this is a game which will continue to be played, and I don't think so we need to be feeling apologetic about the fact. Of course, every country wants to project its power, which they have done it, and rather than just talking about it, I think time is ripe now for India to do the necklace part of it, and which we are already doing here. Okay. So when you say net security provider, I am not purposely going to the security strategy, but I am giving the pillar of security strategy that we spoke of democratic values. DG couldn't have been more unequivocal on this issue. I think that remains our one of the main pillar. The young population, economic rise, military might, you all spoke of. So what is when you talk of this security provider? What does it translate on ground? It's basically capacity building, military diplomacy, military assistance, direct deployment. This is what it translates as a practitioner when you have to go it. What does it mean? That there are multiple stakeholders, integrated framework, and you need a whole of nation work for any national security strategy stroke as a set net provided. And for every strategy, that means ends, ways and means. And of course, we picked up this line from lead by the power of example and not by example of power. That's where the soft power and other things comes into play. So I think I will rest my case here because it's a very vast subject. But we're happy to take on the questions. Anything you have it on your mind, please.
Sir, I am Rituraj Singh. I am 2019 batch Indian Audit and Account Service Officer. Sir, my question is, sir, all the three essay winner, and you have focused on that democratic values are important for the defense. So whenever there is a democracy transition, that is elections, there is some vulnerabilities in the society, hatred coming out. So how that affect our jawans in the field? This is my first question, sir. And secondly, sir, we continuously hear there some incident and one jawan killing their friend. So what is the reason for that? Is there any mental issues? And if this is there, then what our army is doing for that? Thank you, sir.
Can I take your second question first? Because
Sure.
that will partly answer the second one, first one also. Firstly, gentlemen, let's understand it that it's one of the oldest profession, military, but it's a tough profession. Let's face it. It is one of the toughest profession because it is all the complexities of life which you can think. There's no greater joy of giving a life for a nation, but also it's not easy to give a life because ultimately you're asking his life to do his job. So there can't be anything more. But we sometimes get carried away that I had to stay in office till late, my vehicle didn't come, my boss today he gave me a spanking, or my promotion didn't come. So imagine the kind of conflict it causes in our mind. But imagine if you are 24/7, you are there to give your life. So therefore, it's not an easy profession. It's a profession which is very demanding. It's a profession which really takes everything away from you, your family, your time, because you're married to the nation. And you can't ask even for 1 second that why I'm being sent there. But at the end of the career, in the sense that's not how your DNA is. Our ethos, our training from day one teaches us only one thing, that your nation, your men, your duty comes first, and then you come, and your family come later. And if I mean it what I say it, because having been now in uniform for 30 years plus, this is how we lived, and it comes so natural to us. So it's not an easy profession. But what has happened is that why then these problems earlier, were these problems not there earlier? Partly they were not there because people were robust, people were tough, they come from villages, they had seen even greater hardship outside, the generation had worked very hard, genetically they were stronger, they were all sturdy, so that was one piece helping. Second, there were less distractions, there were no media, there were no mobile phone, there were less desires, there were less demands, the families were joined. If he came, he knew that my wife will be looked after, my children will be looked after, all that is happening. And today he aspires, he has a mobile phone, he sees the same WhatsApp, and he sees the same news, and he sees the same cars which you and me see it. Earlier there used to be only one Fiat which we used to see it once in 1 week. So he's seeing everything. So that means there is a huge tectonic transformation in the lives which has taken place. But the demand of life still continues. That does not change. Rest everything has changed. But his desire which we nation wants from him, that remains same. Baki sab badli ho gaya. So you have to live with it, you have to learn to live with it, you have to educate them, you've got to change with time, you have to evolutionize, which we continuously do. We can't treat we can't treat our children what we were treated by our parents. Similarly, we can't Jawan what we treated 30 years back of today's Jawan. So there is a overall, as we say, I don't want to say a dissatisfaction word, but this is the trend of the evolution of the society we live in, and we reflect society. We're not outside the society. Whatever happens, we are all grown up, and I can be a little more, haven't the number of divorces has increased all across? It's become such a common thing. Haven't the suicides overall have increased every day? Hyderabad newspaper, you read it. So this is part of, and so is we are experiencing the same thing, number one. So it's nothing different from what's happening outside, but in our case it is not expected to be, because we are a uniform, disciplined force. And therefore, we can't say that society aise kar rahi to hum bhi aise kar rahe. We have an onus and a responsibility to make sure that we remain robust and we remain focused to our task. That's our job as leaders, which we try to do that part. Now, second part, that when you see these things when happening in the democracies, messy democracies, every day it happens, does it impact the Jawan? Of course it impacts. I mean, the farmers' protest took place, and you know that your Jawans are maximum from those farmers' families. Do you expect this will not happen? 1984 Blue Star occurred, you know that what it happened to this thing. When Sri Lanka occurred, what happened in the South Indian troops, this will happen. And therefore, the sensitivities are so high that we have to tread them very carefully. So how do we do it? We have a very regimented, strong training structure, non-negotiable, right from selection. Of course, once in a while you read it, scam ho gaya, theek hai. In the thousands, if one scam took place, doesn't matter. But 999 have been good. The training is, as I said, is something which is non-negotiable. Then today, if you see secularism, we still in one building. My religion is what? My men's religion. I grew up with the Jats, so I can speak much better Jatu. I am a big Bhakt of Hanuman, so we don't carry religion on our shoulders. Our religion is in one building. We have the mosque and the Gurdwara and the mandir and the church. So we do all these kind of things to make sure that we remain secular. We don't get into this part. But to say that the impact will not be there, it will be there. And therefore we have to be very, very sensitive to all this, which we try to do. Hanji, please.
Sir, good evening, sir. I'm Jagdish from Indian Police Service. So today, India is one of the largest armies in the world, and our military personnel keeps on, number increases. But today, technology is more important. What we need is more machinery, more advanced weapons and all those things. But 80 to 90% of our budget every year is gone in salaries and pensions and other things. So don't we need a relook? Don't we need a relook at the number of army personnel recruited every year? Because maybe we can divert that money to buy better machines, better weapons, or anything of that sort to be prepared in the 21st century.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Very valid and a relevant question. But also please understand that when you go to a doctor, he asks you 10 questions and then he gives you a prescription. In this, we are firstly by civilization, by nations, we are a continental mindset civilization. For us, every inch of ground is important. And it's not going to go overnight. We are not going to become Europeans that they fought in the Second World War. After a few years, they demolished the borders. Today, you can cross from one country to other by just passing through it. We as a nation, it will take our part of the world many years to get out of this continental mindset. We are still married to those pillars which have been put there. Even this thing coming in, the Barkhadas goes and sits there, and by evening there is a catastrophe in the country that why this has happened. So therefore, and when you have to guard these things on ground, then what you need is people. Technologies come in, but technology can't replicate human in so many ways. Second part, please understand that we are as we said, that country in evolution, messy democracies. Look at the amount of internal strife in terms of the insurgencies which we've had. North is still not stabilized after 75 years. We have LW on our table. We had Kashmir, we had Punjab, and therefore, when these insurgencies come, they demand humans on ground to handle those situations. Technology can't find you answers for that. So therefore, which logical commander would like to spend more pennies on unproductive expenditure? Nobody wants to do it, but we are forced to do it. So that's one piece of it. But that's not the complete answer. I agree to your part that we are an army which we inherited, legacy army from Britishers, and therefore there is it's a Chatham House rule, you understand? You understand Chatham House rule? That means whatever is spoken remains here. It doesn't go out of this auditorium. And our resistance to change is very high. Let's face it. So therefore, is there a scope to change? There is a huge scope for change. And the time has come where a machine can do a job, why should a human do it? And therefore, we need to optimize accordingly. While we keep those big picture in mind, that as I said, that I also qualified that with Chinese, you use technology, they'll be very happy. You want to fight a non-contact warfare, they're waiting. You want to do cyber, you want to do rocket artillery, you want to do long-range weapons, they'll be more than happy to fight you. But we say, no, aise nahi, tum wo karo, we'll not leave you, but we want to hug you and fight with you. To hug you need a man. So it's not that simplistic also that technology, Americans had the best of the technology, and you see what happens to them in Iraq, in Afghanistan. They did everything possible with technology and drones and unarmed combat UAVs, and where did the result come out? So it is both ways. Partly yes and partly no. But I think in times to come, this is already happening and it will happen. And I don't want to get into the tour of duty business because that will open another Pandora box then.
Sir, good afternoon, sir. So my question is, you've been in service for over 3 decades now. I'm sure you would have interacted with a lot of bureaucrats, especially from the Ministry of Defense. How has your experience dealing with bureaucrats been? I mean, you can be frank about it. And
very nice.
I mean, would you like to see any changes in the way bureaucrats work, especially the defense bureaucrats? Thank you.
Okay, firstly, I've been very fortunate to at every rank almost to interact, serve and make friends all around and meet it. There are two things. One is organizational, what is personal. If you ask me organizationally, we still have silos. We are very happy operating in silos. We guard our toughs. We feel we are the best to do this job. Who is he to come? This is it's our inner psyche. It is there. So that is one part. Second is that institutionally, organizationally, there is a less knowledge of each other. There are less programs, less interactions, unless until you are in some area operating, trying to do the same common job. So then it is different on that account. So one thing I think, whether we like it or not, organizationally we all need to change, because we spoke of whole of nation approach, we spoke of PDIME, we spoke of integrate. The solution to the future problem is not in a singular linear hand. It will have to be collective, whether we like it or not. Today, more and more, we have to speak to the police here, because the crimes will be in such a manner. Tomorrow, if we have to mobilize, we will need the police help, X, Y, Z. We can go on and on with each other's. Probably we will need more than what you need us, and vice versa at some stage. So that's the organizational part, that earlier we understand, the better it is. So there is, I think the answer is, writing is very clear on the wall. But I think larger than that is the personal part, which again we evolve, we become confident of what we are doing, but at the same time respect others, try and work together, use our soft power, use our better interpersonal skills, and that's where 80–90% of the problems lie. If interpersonal skills are solved, rest then organizations automatically falls into place. So that's my view. Personally, my experience has been just awesome, because I've really, I mean, so many friends we made over a period of time. And I've never had any problems. Even if there was a problem, there was always a solution. When you communicated, you spoke, you gave your viewpoint. There have been tough situations. We were in Manipur, Bishanpur deployed on, some of you would have been there in the Bishanpur on that lake. One side, the SP's residence was there, on the other side, my residence was there as a major. And he was my lifeline and I was his lifeline. He was a Kuki guy serving in a thick of a Naga area, and he was on the hit list. He knew he can't move 100 meters without not one protection. He says, sir, I can't even trust my, I mean, it's just that the dynamics is such there. So these are the kind of complexities we've operated with each other, and we thought we had a great time doing that. Okay.
Good evening, sir. Hi. Sir, I'm Mridul. I belong to the Indian Police Service. Sir, my question is pertaining to certain media reports. So there have been certain media reports wherein it is stated that probably Army has stopped or probably diluted its recruitment at the at the lowest levels. So, sir, is it true? And secondly, is there a doctrinal change within the Army's thinking that has propelled this change? Thank you, sir.
No, I mean, of course, as I said, that media will get you half information and it'll make you this thing. Nothing of that kind. There's absolute clear policy, because good part is that we are not facing problem of recruitment. Today you announce one vacancy and there are roids there. So there is frankly no requirement of dilution. It is other way around, that when you get today's officers, when we see it, their qualification, there are, I mean, for one clerk also you announce, you will get MBAs who are there. So where is the dilution? I mean, if you really ask me. So there is actually no requirement of dilution. Dilution is because we become more softer overall as a society today. Probably as I admitted it, that if you compared a Jwan of 1970, who was not very tech savvy and all, but he was sturdy, you could feel him. Today you'll get a boy who's a chocolate and who's risen, you know, watching, playing what game, कौन सी गेम खेलता है, बोलो वीडियो गेम खेलता हूँ मैं. और वो पहले क्या आता था, कबड्डी खेला हुआ, गांव में वॉलीबॉल खेला हुआ. So that difference is, all our children are reflective of that, simple as that part. But doctrinally, no change at all. The same amount of training, same regimen, same ragda, same thing goes around which it used to go earlier.
So myself, Alok Verma, sir. I am from Indian Forest Service, sir. So my question is, I have read a book, The Art of War, by Chinese commander Sun Tzu. He says that soldiers' innovation, ingenuity, and courage can win the war, even when the opposition has the most advanced technology. At that time, bow and arrow was the most advanced technology, sir. So having said that, sir, China, our neighbor, has more nuclear warhead, more excellent machinery and technology. So, sir, in this context, sir, what are the physical and practical advantages that Indian Army has in terms of skill, geography, and other kind of?
Yeah, good. So, partly I already answered it, that we are not going to let the fight their war. We will like to fight on our strength. So, the human is our strength, which I already alluded and I said to you. Second is, please understand that our operations with respect to Air Force and Navy, which is very important, that we are able to operate from the airfields which are almost at a sea level, mean sea level, with very less heights because of the less geographical expense. Whereas their aircrafts have to operate from Tibet, which is anything from 12,000 feet onwards, which is a huge challenge on any aerial platform which takes off from those altitudes. So I'll leave it here. There are very more technicalities in that. Similarly, imagine that if the Navy, Chinese Navy have to come into Indian Ocean region and you have to operate in Indian Ocean region, it needs no answer. You are far more at advantage, both in terms of geography, in terms of the sea lines of communications, in lines of, so you have an advantage on that account. But when it comes to technology, when it comes to any multi-domain operations today, their cyber capability, their ability to space is far, far greater than us. So everyone has its strengths, and you will accordingly make your strategy to make sure that you put more strength in your strategy as the war fighting this thing. I'm going to very briefly think. There are now, when you deep dive into every subject, there are sub-themes in this particular thing. When Navy itself is a subject, Air Force, how it will fight, how their strategy will be in itself.
जय हिंद सर, मेरा नाम गौरव है सर, मैं 2018 बैच के हरियाणा कैडर का आईपीएस अधिकारी हूँ।
हाँ जी
सर, मेरा प्रश्न ये है कि भारत की सैन्य ताकत जो है, क्या वो चीन का मुकाबला करने में समर्थ है, और अभी वर्तमान परिप्रेक्ष्य में, और अगर नहीं है तो हम उसके लिए क्या कदम उठा सकते हैं?
ऑफ कोर्स अब मेरे से आप कोई और जवाब तो मांगेंगे नहीं इसके अलावा कि समर्थ तो बिल्कुल समर्थ है और लड़ेंगे भी, ये तो मेरा साहब क्लियर आपको जवाब है। बट इस जवाब के अंदर इसको क्वालिफाई जवाब को अगर करते हैं हम लेट से, तो देखिए अब ये भी नहीं कह सकते 6 महीने पहले मैं ये कह के भी निकल जाता कि उस टाइप की लड़ाई नहीं होगी, अब तो लड़ाई होगी सामने, तो अब कैसे कहेंगे नहीं होगी? कल को चाइना ने डिसाइड कर लिया कि सॉर्ट आउट करना है तो आ जाएंगे आजकल। बट इट इज़ नॉट 62, इतना तो आप समझिए कि 62 में द प्रॉब्लम वॉज दैट वी लॉस्ट आउट ऑन अ स्ट्रैटेजी एट द नेशनल लेवल एंड दैट स्ट्रैटेजी नेवर ट्रांसलेटेड ऑन ग्राउंड। अभी जैसे पुतिन साहब के साथ भी क्या हुआ है कि स्ट्रैटेजी कुछ और बनाई थी, टैक्टिक्स कुछ और लगाई। स्ट्रैटेजी थी कि 4-5 दिन में जाएंगे विद मैसिव फोर्स, दीज पीपल विल सपोर्ट अस, हमारी वाह होगी, और 5वें दिन हम कीव में जाएंगे, गवर्नमेंट को ओवरथ्रो कर देंगे, इट्स ए स्पेशल मिलिट्री ऑपरेशंस। सो इट वाज अ स्ट्रैटेजी वाज समथिंग, अब ग्राउंड पे लड़ाई कुछ और हो गई। यू अंडरस्टैंडिंग? सो देयर इज अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर दैट व्हेन यू स्ट्रेटेजाइज फॉर अ वॉर, देयर कांट बी अ divorce between strategy, ops and tactics, which is occurred in the current war which you are seeing it. And similarly it happened in the 62 also. There was a big divorce between जो बंदा वहाँ ग्राउंड पे था वो लास्ट में लास्ट बुलेट तक लड़ रहा था, स्ट्रेटजी कोई आपकी थी नहीं, कोई आपके पास कैपेबिलिटी आपने डेवलप नहीं की। तो आई थिंक we've gone many miles ahead, many notches higher than that. So to say कि will they be just be able to overcome, just walk through, come 100-200 kilometers inside? No. Today we are far more trained, capacity building, troops which are deployed on all those passes will be able to, the rush to the passes will be able to this thing. But will you say that we will not face adversities? We will. There will be reverses. There will be casualties. China will have an upper hand. There is no doubt about it, especially if it is an all-out war. But now, please understand that for a superpower, it's like you win, but if you don't have an absolute victory, does it give them, will it give them more advantage or disadvantage? अब रशिया को advantage मिल रही है, disadvantage मिल रही है. So always this, why did Pakistan has been able to carry on with it, it's been carrying on? Because they were happy with the notion of victory. Say India war पे आएगा, कोई बात नहीं तुम कर लो, but we will also give you this thing. So this asymmetry, when you apply it in the strategy, you realize that today's countries will go to war only if they are assured of a victory. If it is a stalemate for China, it is not a victory, it is a defeat for them. So it's not only counting those humans and the technology strategy you put in place. I think that will come in our way.
Hello sir, I am Digvijay Patil from Indian Foreign Service, currently posted in Kazakhstan. You talk, a significant portion of your speech was dedicated to Indo-Pacific region, sir, and you talked about Project Mosam or Sagar. And in my personal experience, I'm telling, sir, because China has this BRI concept, Belt and Road Initiative, and the branding is very clear, very subtle, everybody knows it. But when we go to any country in the Indo-Pacific region and when we have talked with the think tanks or the people in their governments, they do not have any idea of this Project Mosam or Sagar. So why we are lacking in this branding? Because there is the question for us to answer, the MEA, but I'm just want to have your views on it. And particularly because military is quite involved in this region, and the Indian High Commissioner to Seychelles is also from military. That's why this question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. Let's face it, Sir said that Indians are very argumentative. I can also carry on that little bit further, that we're very good at making policies, trying to give this thing, but the art lies in execution and walking the talk. So let's face it, that we have a challenge in New Delhi, that while we said कि we will make in India, then we say आत्मनिर्भरता, पर कर वही रहे हैं कि फिर वहाँ से आके stamping अपनी लगा रहे हैं. As a nation, I think we have some very strong points. When we are in adversity, we'll fight. कल को लड़ाई लगेगी तो सब इकट्ठे हो जाएंगे. These trains which we keep saying बड़ी slow चलती हैं for military purposes, overnight they will move because they moved last time when we wanted it in a war. All that will happen. But somehow our inertia and our indolence which is there in the system, and all of us have to be blamed for it. It is live, it is there, and we suffer. And this is not how Chinese operate. I can share with you that I had an opportunity to go and live in Beijing for a few days, and I didn't go with any purpose. मुझे कोई inspection करनी है और unit जाना. I just wanted to answer myself one question, that how are they able to do what they do? That was the statement of problem to me. But let me tell you, once the high command or the party CCP has taken a decision and the decision is down, there are no questions asked thereafter. Unfortunately, we are as a civilization, as a democracy, this thing, we are not made that way. We are not engineered that way. So while the policy is very clear, it's a good policy, and I'm not saying we don't have the means. If you have the desire, the intent, the means will come. Problem is the translation from the top to the bottom. It's a big challenge for us. And let's face it, we are to be blamed, the practitioners who are there. You don't expect Mr. Modi to start now. He can only give you his vision. How to translate that vision on the ground to the last mile is job. Our job, when we don't want to burn extra midnight oil. We want best of the perks. We want to give up 9 बजे से 10 बजे से पहले office नहीं जाऊँगा और फिर जा. So if we want, I think we are a little away from that kind of these bureaucrats. You see the Chinese working, the Japanese working, the Americans who do their policy making working. You'll get the answers.
Good evening, sir. Sir, I'm Taranjeet Singh from the Indian Post and Telecom Accounts and Finance Service. Sir, my question is related to J&K. Sir, has the situation improved after the state was dismantled, or has it worsened for the forces?
Can we keep it as the last question now? I think because with this we said, and we'll maybe over a cup of tea we'll interact on that part. So again we will go to Chatham House rule. I think in the larger context, this was a good step taken at the national level. But if we expect immediate results, it's not going to happen. It will take time. It has a gestation period because it's a problem for 3 generations have seen it now. So we'll say that by doing one tick of the button, things will go away. No, it will not. But on ground, there is a manifestation of some very positives. People have, as I said, that they have realized it, the futility of the complete thing and the economic development as it is coming. Pakistan, fortunately or unfortunately, got entangled in their own game, and which helped us in overall stabilizing the situation here. China was not happy, and that's why they did what they did to us, because they thought that we are getting a little too powerful for our shoes. So we've felt the heat of it at the national level. But if you say ki in 5 years will it bring in peace or no, then certainly not. But if you ask over a span of 30 years, will it make a difference? Yes, it will make a difference. But we are expecting that probably of Article 372 within 3 years insurgency will finish. It will not. Maybe the graph might go even up for some time. But when gradually things will stabilize, because this memory will fade away from the current polity of Pakistan, from China, things will stabilize and economic development will take place, people will realize it, futility of it, then things will be better.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an inspiring talk and making us understand the role of technology in national security. Thank you also for a wonderfully interactive session. I would now request Mr. Dev Jyoti to bring a banner. Sir, all the officer trainees have made a banner to show a token of gratitude towards all the men in service, and all the OTs have signed on it. So I would request Dev Jyoti to bring it to the stage. I ask DD sir to please present it to GOC sir. I would now request DG sir to present a memento to GOC sir. I would now request Mrs. Preetpal Singh ma'am to please come on the stage. It is my request to CD ma'am to please present a vote of thanks to GOC sir.
Respected GOC sir, respected DG sir, our colleagues, JDG ma'am, on behalf of the MCRHRD Institute and the officer trainees present here, I would like to take this opportunity to thank Major General Preetpal Singh ji for gracing the Army Symposium today. That is the Civil Services Day, also a special occasion for us, sir. Thank you, sir, for taking time out to felicitate our officers. I thank our DG and the additional CD, Dr. Madhavi, for her efforts in arranging this Army Symposium. And thank you to all our 3 prize winners especially, who have given lucid and comprehensive presentations. Once again, sir, thank you for your patience during the question and answer session. We wish to see you again in the future. Thank you. May we all rise now for the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे